Good evening. This is the first of two public hearings to finalize our budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 and set the millage rate for our city. We hold these hearings every year in order to ensure that our residents have ample opportunity to be part of the process of crafting a balanced budget for the city. It's important that we have an open and transparent process as we allocate taxpayer dollars. So I want to thank those residents who are here and who have tuned in whenever this is being broadcast. I know that the property appraiser, Bill Donegan, is here, so before I begin any remarks, I'd like to introduce him, and he has an engagement that he needs to travel to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Tonight is the budget hearing to discuss the millage rate for the city. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to discuss value issues from the property appraiser's office, I have staff outside in the library, and we'd be glad to chat with anyone. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you for being here. Commissioners, as we have said the last several months now, Orlando is in the best financial shape of any major city in Florida, and this budget is a reflection of that hard-earned reality. This is a balanced budget that requires no increases to our tax rate and therefore keeps money in the pockets of our residents. This budget requires no additional cuts or reductions in service. That's because of our work to cut costs, reduce size of government over the past several years, and recognize efficiencies and smarter government. It also maintains our investments in key areas like police, fire, public works, and our downtown core. And while our city, state, and nation continues to recover, I want our residents to know and be proud of the fact that their government's in sound financial shape. For the last several weeks, we've touted some important facts, and before we proceed, I thought I would revisit a few of those. Once again, we are balancing our budget without the need to raise our tax rate. Orlando has the lowest tax rate of any major city in Florida, has a lower tax rate than it did 20 years ago. We have fought tax increases together while other cities have raised their tax rates in response to the negative effects of the recession. And we have balanced our budget without the need to drain reserves. In fact, since 2005, we've added to our reserves by 30%, while other local governments around Florida have drained their strategic reserves. Orlando has more police officers per 1,000 residents than any major city in Florida, and at the same time, we have reduced the number of overall employees, and we are the only major city government in Florida that has fully funded all of its committed retirement benefits. And Fitch gave Orlando a AAA bond rating in 2011, the highest credit score possible. So if you're looking at other governments around Florida, these are not the sort of budget facts they're talking about. It's layoffs and financial urgency, even bankruptcy being talked about in Miami, tax hikes. Those are the budget facts other cities are dealing with, and I want our city residents to know that we've worked on their behalf to put them in a strong position when it comes to their money. And thank you to this Orlando City Council. Our residents can be proud that they live in a well-run, fiscally responsible city that is careful with their tax dollars. Let's move to the public hearing. This is the first of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the City of Orlando for fiscal year 2011-2012. At this first hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. At the second hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the millage resolution?
Resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, establishing the ad valorem tax levy millage rate upon the assessed real property and business personal property tax rolls of the year 2011.
The proposed millage rate for the city for fiscal year 2011-2012 is 5.6500 mils, which is 5.02% lower than the rolled back rate of 5.9488. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed millage rate?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lineham, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Rebecca, comments regarding the proposed millage rate?
Mayor, just simply that on July 25th, the City Council approved a millage rate of 5.65 so that the appropriate filing could be made with the property appraiser by the August 4th deadline set for the trim notification process. This millage rate is within the parameters outlined by the state formula and has not been changed from prior year, nor are we changing it from the action that you took on July the 25th.
Is there anyone from the public like to comment or testify on the millage rate? Commissioner Stewart, you your organization receives funding from the city, so I know you have a statement.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And as we have done every year for the last several years, let me just read this statement into the record. As you know, I have served for many years as the Executive Director of the Christian Service Center for Central Florida. The budget for this year and for many years prior to my service on the City Council has included funds that provide a modest grant to the center. The amount of that proposed funding for this year is $22,240. None of that money goes towards general operations, but only specific program operations of the center, so therefore none of that money goes towards me. These funds, however, will not be granted to the Christian Service Center unless and until the Christian Service Center and the city enter into a separate written agreement. Such agreement will come before the City Council for individual approval at some point in the future. I want to make it clear that when this specific item comes before the City Council, I will abstain from voting on the funding agreement between the city and the Christian Service Center, and will fill out all the proper documentation noting that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see, there's motion and second, so the question is before us. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the budget resolution, please?
A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, adopting the annual budget of the City of Orlando, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2011 and ending September 30th, 2012.
Motion to adopt the tentative budget for 2011-2012. Motion by Commissioner Ings.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sheehan. Rebecca.
The total proposed budget is $923,291,847, including a general fund budget of $347,241,867. That's the same amount as included in the overall city budget as presented in the July 25th budget in brief. There have been no changes made to this budget since that date.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment on the tentative budget? Commissioner Stewart?
Mayor, I apologize. I jumped the gun on my statement, so apply what I just read to this.
Okay. Applies equally.
Not to the millage rate, but to the actual budget.
All
Thank
right,
you very
Madam
much.
Clerk,
You were
please
kind
take
not to embarrass me.
Note of that. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, 6-1, motion carries. And that concludes the public hearing related to the City of Orlando budget, and we will move on to the DDB budget and millage rate. This is first of two public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate and budget for the Downtown Development Board for fiscal year 2011-2012. This first hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. At the second hearing, City Council will consider for adoption the final millage rate and budget. Madam Clerk, would you read the millage rate related to the DDB, please?
A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, establishing for the Downtown Development Board the ad valorem tax levy millage rate upon the assessed real property within the Downtown Development District of the year 2011.
Proposed millage rate for the DDB for fiscal year 2011-2012 is 1 mil, which is 20.22% lower than the rolled back rate of 1.2534. For those of you in the audience, the rollback rate means the rate we would have to collect the same amount of tax revenue year over year, and interestingly, now it's higher. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed millage rate?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Rebecca?
The City Council, on behalf of the DDB, has set a millage rate of $1 per 1,000 valuation. Similar to the city's millage rate, this rate was submitted to the property appraiser by the August 4th deadline for the trim notification process. The millage rate is within the parameters outlined by the state formula and has not changed from the prior fiscal year.
Public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, the title of the budget resolution for the DDB.
A resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, adopting the annual budget of the Downtown Development Board for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2011 and ending September 30th, 2012.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Rebecca?
The total budget for the Downtown Development Board is $2,920,507. That's the same amount as included in the overall city budget as presented in the July 25th budget in brief. There have been no changes made since that date.
Public comment? Commissioner comment, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Concludes our hearing. We will convene next Monday at 5:01 for final passage. We're adjourned. All right. Pretty efficient other than.